Very, very warm welcome to you, Hemant. Thank you for joining at such a short notice. And this has been the craziest amount of trying to get each other um, in a fixed time and getting to do something interesting.
Yes.
Funnily enough, I had a thought running in my head which I could not name for the longest time. So the thought was that how does one maintain spirituality in a city-bred life? Uh, but I couldn't get what I wanted to say in a short um, topic kind of thing. Finally, I got something: how to stop stress. Uh, so that set me thinking: what is stress? Would you have any thoughts, generic thoughts on stress? Is a recent word. I would think when I was born and first 10 years, I never heard of it. But say 80s, 83, 84 onwards, kind of one started hearing it a lot more, and 90s onwards it became a everyday usage kind of word. How do you see it today after say 30, 40 years of regular usage of this word? If I were to loosely put it, I don't have any data on that.
Yeah. It's a wonderful rabbit hole, Bunty. Um, I think we can look at this from, let's say we were to look at our body, our emotions, and our mind as three platforms. Uh,
Mm.
we are a meta platform. Each of us is a meta platform, and then we have sub platforms under us or within us. So, if I look at the level of body, then I can feel, sense, analyze that there are things which are very easy to do. There are things that are difficult to do with respect to body. 30 years back, I would very easily get down to a gully cricket and quickly just start playing. But I remember just 10 years back, I was trying almost a similar thing in the company I was in 12 years back. And because I did not have practice and I was just overly enthusiastic that day, I, I incurred a fracture, a leg fracture for a month. So, so I think from the level of body, there are things that the body, the flexibility and the exercise and the discipline of the body allows for or disallows for, right? So when it disallows for something, it creates an effortfulness to be able to do that. So that's the level of body that I can think of. When it comes to emotion, uh, I feel if we can ground the energy in motion, which is emotion, into the following 3 by 2, which is, let's say on the x-axis we have high emotion, low emotion. Y-axis you have positive and negative. And then there is a z-axis, which is approach and avoid. So, for example, let's say a very high emotion, which is anger, let's say, for some reason, let's just say anger is a negative emotion. While, Martin Luther King also had anger against, the black racism. So that was an anger that he had. But we are not talking about that right now. But let's say we have anger and that's high emotion, it's a negative. Now, sometimes anger makes us, and if we are aware of our surroundings, sometimes we approach the subject which is causing us anger. But suppose if that person is Khali, or that person is Undertaker, or that person is Arnold Schwarzenegger, obviously you would be careful of where you want to vent your anger to. So, so from that angle, I think our emotions have these different paradigms of high, low, positive, negative, and approach and avoid, and we can map all our emotions in these paradigms. And sometimes when we do not have a way to dance with the emotion with the other, we feel this thing that is building up inside, and we don't know how to vent it, and it's just getting accumulated and accumulated, and it shows a spectrum of little irritation to annoyance to frustration to wild rage and anger and vindictiveness, hatred, psychopathy, and stuff. So that's how I would then ground energy in motion, emotion inside of us. So there is the body, there is the emotion. At the level of mind, I think if we do not push ourselves to learning on a consistent basis, very soon we encounter a lot of frustration by interacting with people because sometimes they don't get us or we don't get them, or they're talking about certain words or certain new subject. They're trying to mix a lot of things, and suddenly it creates a cognitive load. Now, brain, whatever limited I understand, is has a certain cognitive capacity at any given point of time. But that capacity is decided by a lot of things happening inside and outside, before and after. Now, if that cognitive load, the brain is not able to take cognitive load, it just switches off, it disengages, or it vents out in certain way. So now if I then give these three platforms, I think amongst us or within us, how these three platforms are behaving or sub platforms are behaving and what we're doing about it over a period of time, then gives us the ground to deal with the things inside and outside. And when we are not able to deal with them, we find them and we find them difficult, effortful, negative, high cognitive load, and then we name them in certain manner like stress or something like that. But I think in human evolution, and this is again, it depends on our individual cosmology and beliefs. Some people consider that you need to constantly keep upping the ante, upping the comfort zone, just stretching it a bit. And some people believe that, why the hell should you do that? You just want to be natural and go with the flow and stuff. So it depends on the cosmology you come from, and then you would then coin them differently. So I don't know whether I addressed some of your thing.
You raised a few questions for sure. No, you did address the question very well. The stress is when there is an inner conflict uh, in the three platforms you mentioned. But even if one were not to buy into those platforms for whatever cosmology one comes from, there is this understanding that you want something and you're not getting, or you're getting something that you don't want. And what also came out from your sharing was there is a way to learn what is happening and educate oneself and find ways to unknot oneself from the situations that we find ourselves in. So anger was a good example because in the rush of our lives, we find ourselves at loggerheads with schedules, with people, with traffic, with time management, with our own mental pace. I like the fact that you brought up the education part of it, that we can do things with the mind that help you prepare for times which may lead to some kind of stressful situations. One question I have in particular there, my understanding of this training that one does is it is easier to train oneself when the situation isn't so stressful, or one is one is outside the throes of immediacy of the problem, whatever one finds oneself in. So if you are a little out, a little relaxed, there is a chance that you might study it better for you to grasp what the learnings are. Would you want to talk about the space between, in the time between when one is not in the middle of any immediate situation and what happens when one is in the situation? What is the learning? How does one gauge that? How does it impact the next problematic area we find ourselves in? Is there any correlation? Is it luck by chance? Or is there really a methodology that works? How does one test it? Is it cast in stone? Does my cosmology completely cover everything and quote unquote get into the area of destiny, fate? This is how it is, we can't change it. How do you, there are a couple of questions there, but I think there is a common thread how does one work on oneself with some kind of results if possible?
Again, a beautiful invocation, Bunty. Reminded of a. So I'll try and address this from few ways. One is I remember verbatim nahi aa raha hoga, but there's something that I read. I think Confucius mentioned about this. Um, if you learn by imitation, it's I think it's good. If you learn by reflection, it's noble. If you learn by experience, it's better.
Bitter or
So
better?
bitter, kadwa.
Yeah.
So that's the first invocation. The second is if I just were to speak about my own self and my own life, to whatever limited I could capture here during the exchange. And if I say that, can I recall incidences where I learned because of the situation, which was so stressful and unwanted and undesirable? And so let's say there was an x-axis where there was the undesirable situation and unwanted and stuff. And then there was, the lull between the two such undesired or problematic things. And then on the y-axis, you have learned better and did not learn. So I think in my life, all four have been there. There have been situations that have been really grave and worse, but I don't know what did I learn from them. They're etched in my memory forever. I recall them once in a while, but I don't know what I have learned from them. Then there are similar such grave things that have happened, and I have learned things from them. And then there are lull period where I have learned, and there are lull period where I have not learned. So I think our human, as I keep saying in most of our interactions, that these two by two grid is a language that helps me see myself a little better. Absence of this language makes me narrow in my own analysis, self-analysis, others' analysis, and then I operate with that narrow analysis, judging myself and the other. So yeah,
Okay. I was thinking on the same lines, except that you use different words to come to that question. So, I'll put it very childishly. There is this line from some Jagjit Singh ghazal. ये दिल भी अड़ा है जिद पे किसी बच्चे की तरह, यहाँ तो सब कुछ ही से चाहिए या कुछ भी नहीं.
right,
There are days I see myself be absolutely childish about things, and I don't mean it in a nice manner. Uh, it is absolutely unreasonable. Oh, I want this. This has to happen like this, and the reason why I bring this up is very. This is the first time I'm able to name this. I have always felt something about this, but today you use some words that brought it together for me. So while I am being childish, there is a part of me that is also watching better. So the wise me is also there along with. But I am determined not to listen. And I can watch. And I say, to hell with you, I do not want advice. I don't want wisdom. I want victory. I want revenge or whatever. I'm using revenge as a very strong term. It's not an emotion that is very strong, but it might be there. I want to put you down because you hurt me. Uh, in the middle of that, the wise Bunty gets an entry, and halfway through putting you down, I've already started retracing my steps and started to mend our fences again, because there is this huge thing of, okay, I don't want to die and come back to solve my problem with Hemant. I uh, I want to be free. So that knowledge keeps on coming back, and halfway through, I may be in the I may be actually very lousy, using uncouth language right in the middle of lot of anger, and it's like gone on for like 3 minutes or something. But right at the third minute, that provocation keeps on saying hello. That's all right. You've used language and this and that. Everything is all right. You want to come back again to resolve this? No, I don't. So my peace is a kind of selfishness that I choose for myself. And in turn, you are completely surprised कि अभी तो 3 मिनट तक इतनी गाली दे रहा था, आप suddenly बोला यार हेमंत sorry यार. And I will use the right words also because I feel it. It's not just to patch up. I am actually trying to mend it. Ke, look, I have told you my truth. I am really angry at you for behaving like this with me. But यार तू अपने कोने में खुश रहे, मैं अपने कोने में खुश हूँ. I am okay with that. मतलब let's not talk. It always turns out कि because I have become nice, so that situation comes back again. You are saying कि बंटी को वापस तंग कर सकते हैं, और बंटी भी खुद को तंग करता है फिर से. बट ये मैं पकड़ के रखता हूँ. तो ये ना इक्वेशन मुझे आपको बतानी थी, बिकॉज यू ऑल्सो सेड कि यू हैव लर्न फ्रॉम सम स्टफ, यू हैव नॉट लर्न फ्रॉम सम स्टफ. कल परसों आई वांट टू नाउ गिव अ न्यूएंस टू इट व्हिच आई डिडंट हैव till 3-4 days back. I was discussing with my daughter also, who meditates on and off, but she talks quite a bit about such kind of stuff with me. So I was reading something on dependent origination by the Buddha, एंड उसमें कॉन्शियसनेस का जो डेफिनेशन दिया गया था, उसमें एक पार्ट ये था कि व्हाट वी सी एज हैबिचुअल इज एक्चुअली नॉट. We like to see it as a continuity of sorts. Every time there is a nuance, there is an experience, there is a touch which is absolutely not like the last time. It is just absolutely new. It's our inability to see it like that that makes us, and it happens at such a rapid pace that we would want to think कि ये continuous है. Hemant is a very good person, Hemant is a bad person, Bunty is a great person, he is a lousy person. Whatever this adjective that we add, this characteristic that we add, might have some truth to it. Like all truths are minor truths. Like till you reach the ultimate truth, we are all fumbling with words and concepts. And so my submission to you is, how do you view this khichdi, for want of a better term, or this sense of flux? Uh, Acceptance is one answer that I seem to get every time, because it gets too wordy, too heavy, too lot of concepts fall in place immediately. But I don't have words to explain. It just is. I cannot fight with it. So I may be angry, I may be sad, I may be peaceful, but there is a connectivity with all the things which do not necessarily conflict with each other. Uh, please go ahead. I can speak about this for the next one day and not end, because this whole thing is so complicated and knotted with each other. But this is the summation. There are simultaneous running of many processes that define me, and that those cannot be defined. Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts about this quote unquote mind? Or mind space, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Bunch of things emerged for me on this, Bunty. The first thing is I recall this gentleman, Jonathan Haidt, who's a social psychologist in New York University. And I remember long time back, almost 9-10 years back. So I've been watching his work over a period of time, on and off. But I very distinctly remember in one of the talks that he was giving almost 9 years back, he quoted something from a poem. I don't know kahan se leke aaye the, which poem, but it went the following: "But love, resistless love, my heart it invades. I know the right, I see it too, and yet the wrong prevails." So I could, just resonated with me that there are times in human life where there is so if we were to look at what ought to be the case, and whether I do something about it or not. Let's say there are three axes. So sometimes we are able to see what is emerging in terms of, thoughts emerging and falling, emotions emerging and falling, postures, that micro changes happening in postures and falling. And then we have an immediate instant reference to whether it's right or wrong, whether it's good or bad, whether it's desirable or not. That's where the ought comes in. It ought to be the case. And then you have this conflict. Here, the is not matching the ought. And you have this gap, balance sheet match nahi kar rahi andar. So obviously, balance sheet is not matching, there is an imbalance sheet inside. And then the question is, do you do something about it or you just let it be? Right? So I think I've come across different spiritual traditions. One that says, let it be. क्या हो गया? क्या हो जाएगा? And the other says, नहीं, कुछ करो. उसी के लिए तो तुम आए हो. तो तुम्हारे और जानवर में अंतर क्या है? Broadly, right?
Yeah.
And then there are other traditions also, which are mergers of both and stuff, right? But that's what is emerging for me. The other thing that was there is there is this thinker called Simone de Beauvoir, who wrote an interesting essay called The Ethics of Ambiguity. And उस essay का जो मुझे थोड़ा import समझ में आया है कि we are constantly trying to solve for contradictions and conflicts and paradoxes and uncertainties and a whole lot of stuff, dissatisfaction and incompleteness, because we somehow believe that solving for it will get us to some kind of a eternal shore where we'll be at peace for a longer period of time. I think she writes that maybe we need to relook at this project. We don't need to solve for all the conflicts and paradoxes and inconsistencies and contradictions. Because there is no solution per se there is no final solution to them per se. There may be temporary solutions, but it'll emerge again in some other form, inside of you, outside of you. So either you get into that game of constant solving and you start enjoying it, or you then take a step back and look at this amusement, whether you call it Maya or the Leela or the illusion, or the sheer, scientific chance probability that these things are the way they are. So I think it largely depends on on two or three factors. One is what's your if you excavate your own self, if you do an archaeology of your own language, if you do an archaeology of your own concepts and experiences, you then figure out what are the belief systems that you hold, against which you're trying to map these experiences, is and not. And then if you want to undertake a project of re-looking at them, then that's your journey. Or if you just want to let it be, then that's your journey.
You brought in one point that I just received a message sometime back by another of our guests on Random Contemplation, Manoj Khatri. He sent something on cosmic humor. And that is something that I have really liked in my entire journey from time to time. A bit of laughing at myself for all this seriousness and this intellectuality and there is this childish glee at theek hai yaar. This whole universe is functioning for so many zillions of years, eons and eons, and everything is perfect. You cannot even make a rock or a small stone more rounder than it already is. It's just the right round. Is that small? Why are you even trying to do anything with your life? Sometimes it's okay to let go and it's perfect. Now, you do not know which fish you were and how you came on land and how your desire has moved you birth after birth to reaching a point. Thankfully, you are in a space where you are introspecting more often than not. You're wanting to be a better quality of human being through things that are inherently conflicting due to the maya of it, whatever it is. So there is this father that I am, there is this creative person that I am, there is this podcaster that I am, there is this student that I am. Sometimes uh, they're all looking at each other, and there is this massive connection underneath, and there is no connection because I have made it into certain roles and responsibilities and things to do. And then there is this observer who laughs. "Ki, yaar, you are such a wise podcaster, but 2 minutes into it, then suddenly you are irritated by the smallest uh, noise or something. Where did that wisdom go?" So, this ability to look at myself as dispensable. A lot of people don't like the word. When in my conversations, I often say, "What if I die now?" or "What if you die?" or whatever. They are not happy with that choice of language that I have. But I find it is a very positive frame of reference for me. It gives meaning to what moment I'm spending with you or what choice I'm making, even if it is that childish choice that I mentioned, that it's okay. When you are actually asking for love, one of the things that I have uh, often thought about is that we are all asking for respect and love, whatever other words you want to use, which are similar. We want to be acknowledged, basically, that we are, and then we are dash, 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 whatever properties that we see in ourselves. But we are is what we want to. I want to be told, look, you exist, you are important, uh, you are, you matter. And well, uh, we matter because of that. Again and again, we keep mattering, uh, taking birth because we have chosen the aspect of being acknowledged. Uh, how do you see this submission? Your audio is gone away.
I want to tie this back to something that you asked just before this, and I did not address. Where you said that sometimes we're seeking patterns, and then when we're seeking those patterns, uh, there isn't a pattern in the first place. And I'm reminded of actually, I was reminded at that point about two things. One is coming from I don't know who said this, but we do not step into the same river. We do not step into the same river twice, right? And there is another thing that is coming from Jiddu Krishnamurti, where his point was the moment we start wording things, naming experiences, we somehow stop there. It's sort of a dead end. We don't go beyond that because somehow there is this thing where झंडे गाड़ के अब वापस आ रहे हैं हम वहाँ पे. That wording
Hmm.
is like that summit for us. But I think both of them are invoking that we could be careful about the role of language, the role of patterns in transacting in the world to the extent that we want to transact in the world, what we want from the world, what we want to contribute to the world. Uh, but then there are things beyond them, and if you want to explore, you can explore, which somebody else might not be interested in because they are busy, doing the transactions. Or your exploration, my exploration could be completely different in terms of how we word them and how we conceptualize them, how we exchange them. Um, The other thing that was emerging for me was, as you said, that why is this urge in us for pattern seeking or patternizing, uh, and are we looking for acknowledgement from outside? Are we looking for that we want to be mattering to them? We want to be relevant to people. We want to be useful, helpful. Um, sometimes I just sit back and I ask myself कि किससे मांग रहा हूं मैं? क्या उसके पास वो है, वो जो मुझे चाहिए, क्या उसके पास है पहले? If they don't have what I want, or in other words, can I give something that I don't have? If I don't have, I can't give. And if I'm also wanting what you want in other ways, then we are all mutual begging clubs. Um, in which case, some of us will need to regenerate and start contributing to this deficit in the world, massive deficit, you know, in the world. So yeah, that's what is emerging for me.
Uh, many years back, I read this book called The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. Uh, there was this concept in that book where he said, we all seek energy, and unless we are connected to the, I'm not using the words that he's used, I'm just creating them as we go along. Till we are connected to the universal source, we feel full enough. But if we don't, then we enter every equation where we are trying to take energy from each other. So there are these 3 or 4 ways that we take energy from each other. So there is this staying aloof. So you keep, which is got its counterpart in interrogator. So if I'm staying aloof, you'll ask, what happened, Bunty? What did I do something? What happened? So we are both trying to get energy from each other through that. And there is this aggressor, and there is this poor me. So they are
Sorry, what was the last?
poor me.
Poor me. Okay.
So you become aggressive, and I suddenly say, no, nobody treats me right, and blah, blah. And we are in all 4 frames of mind at any point of time, any can pick up. Percentages may change. One of the exercises, now I do not remember if this was connected back to this same thing what I just shared, but I remember. So if 4 of us are sitting in a meeting and you are trying to think something where you're not getting the words, so 3 of us will send love to you, or um, listen to you very carefully and give all our attention to you in a very meaningful manner, helping you sort out your confusion, and you start getting the words from that. So for the first time today, I have just got an answer to something, a connection which I didn't have before this. So when, as a parent, you are very angry. Me and my daughter have these conversations about parenting and how so many. So the loss of one parent has made me cooler. I keep telling her, look, if your mother was alive, I would be as bad a parent as anybody else is. I would be a typical guy. Don't do this, don't do that. Come here, do that, do this. Now I listen to you, I talk to you, we are partners in understanding each other. And so I am trying to compensate for what my wife would have done, given you an open ear. Uh, I would have been a typical dad and say, "Yahi karna hai, khatam ho gaya." No, no discussion on the matter. But now consciously I have taken this call that I will listen to you and this part will come in. So today I'm connecting the two. So what I'm trying to do is the attention is, so that makes you, what I have also felt is being a good parent, a good podcaster, a good writer, a good this, good that, good being a variable. You can choose what you want to name the good as, or the property of goodness that one is looking at. You need to be that very often, whatever you want to be. And that starts giving you results whenever they come. So uh, if I am constantly reprimanding you for doing things like this or like that and this and that, then no matter what I claim, in your head, I am a guy who reprimands you all the time. Uh, and similarly, if I am kind and if I am genuinely kind, so again and again and again, if I become kinder, So at some point you realize, okay, this guy is actually kind. I have an entire episode on the negativities of this because I'm finding social media is corrupting our understanding of nuances very, very strongly now. Uh, in my uh, podcast with Ajan Jay sir, also I had asked him, and now I'm thinking that can be an entire series of itself because I'm finding people are forgetting things, and I myself see nuances much, much later than I used to because of screen time and the immediacy of contact and feeling and sense of the world owes me something. Uh, it's actually quite convoluted inside now. I do not have a lot of words for it, but I know it has its grip on us much more than any other drug has ever had in history. Uh, and it is very, uh, it makes me a depraved human being. And when I say depraved, I do not mean just societal norms. I think it just kills any understanding, and the process that is required to understand anything with depth is going away. And I do not know where I see this all in myself. I'm not even now judging others. Finding that had I not had my practice and the other things, uh, I would have completely lost it. It is it is far more intrinsically entering our lives on a daily basis with the rapidity of something that we've never seen before. And this is not even being afraid of AI coming and doing this. Whatever is doing is already bad enough. Giving it a name is not important. I think it is just my emptiness that allows these things to pull me whenever it gets pulled. So I can spend 1.5 hours just scrolling reels. The only good part is that I follow philosophers and spiritual pages or whatever they are called, accounts. But it doesn't help because I have also realized that I read three good messages. After that, I've completely forgotten what the first message was. So I haven't spent time on it. Just whatever my experiences has helped me quickly gauge what it was. And I have tick marked, okay, I know this. But now when you spoke in this episode itself, so many things, oh yes, Hemant talks the same language but uses different words. You managed to open three or four new things for me on stuff that was struggling is a strong word, but I've always had a question about, and those are just unraveling themselves, and it's so beautiful because we are giving each other the gift of time, the gift of attention, the gift of depth, uh, the gift of humanness, the acceptance. All of these things, what are uh, feminine in a way, energies, which is just openness to the whole concept of let's see where this goes. Let's talk. And I'm bringing this up also because of an ulterior motive here, because we started with how to stop stress. But these are these things that need to come up in anything within myself to start with, even before it happens with you or in the podcast or in my real life, in the new business that I am, or as a writer. Very often, I also start judging myself very, very quickly. Oh, I am so those two by twos don't happen. And that's why I have respect for those. Uh, Although it might be a crutch, I am unsure about that. So at some point you may have to let go. Like great Saint Tukaram says, "Ata meets Vitthal Jalo." So now there is no Tukaram left. Everything I am God. But when it comes, it will come for us. For now, we need these crutches, these words, these little insights that give us. These are those glimmers. You're walking a dark street, you just get that glimmer and you say, okay, next 100 meters is taken care of. So, yeah, I wanted to bring about this context to the whole thing. Because otherwise, it seems like one more conversation that we typically have. But regarding stress, I think all these pointers that you mentioned, uh, these conflicts inside, various ways that we can accept. with whatever it is. Okay, we are failing right now. It's okay to fail. It's just failing right now. Let us just wait with it. So, if you had to have a last word, I would want to give you that context. Can you talk about patience, or can you talk about just being in the moment for a while? How does that serve this entire journey of what we've been speaking? Because unless we are being there in the moment, how are we going to create any of these momentary understandings? So, would you want to talk a little about patience in context or even out of context? I'm okay with that. I think I have set the context in the long ramble I had. Sorry. Can I provoke you a little more? I
Yeah,
just got
please.
a thought. You have been going through certain things that you've shared with me, uh, and despite your wisdom, you seem to completely be stumped by whatever happens at times. So, in that context, also, if you could talk about patience, if you want to personalize and whatever you can share, there is no hard and fast. But because we are all being challenged by our whatever whatever our lives are. I don't even know whether to name anything like that.
I think if if things that are happening now in me, outside of me, were happening 12 years back, or if I look back, similar things happening around those times, uh, what was what was my experience of it? How would I conceptualize it? How would I react versus respond? uh, यानी प्रतिक्रिया नहीं हो अनुक्रिया हो. um, so I can clearly see a stark difference 12 years back and now, very stark. um, it just means the following, that the inventory of presence, the inventory of experiences where there is a sense of presence in the moment, during the event, with the person, in the situation, that inventory is much bigger now from earlier. Second, there is the other inventory where that the quality of presence, the quality of consciousness, the quality of response is not so good in the other bucket. But the ability to get back from that to this is faster. And that journey also is enjoyable, coming from this to this. So it's like a dance happening, you know. So sometimes I give the initial cue and the move, and sometimes this gives me the move, the cue and the move. But there's this dance happening, and so that's one way to mention it. Second, patience. Yes, I think it is, at least in my case, it is coming more from having more inventory of experiences of, that urgency and abhi chahiye and abhi kyun nahi and all of that. Uh, I think that is that is finding itself into a slightly better space inside of me. Uh, yeah,
And can I ask you a
and
question on this? Uh,
yeah.
do you feel scared when you're not dealing with things on an urgent basis? I will qualify this. Yesterday, I had a client call. The client is a hyperactive client, and he goes on talking very fast, and there is this entire pace, and we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. And while listening only, I just tried to take a long breath to settle myself. I don't need to get overwhelmed. We shall get there when we do. Because this is not even the main conversation. The conversation is going to next involve Hemant and a third party and a fourth party. ये 4 बार हो गया तो एक तो ट्रैक चेंज होता है पता नहीं चलता है.
Yes.
So that attention that I want, the slowness I want. So yesterday, for the first time, I realized, uh, is it a drawback to slow down? I just asked myself. I didn't have an answer. I wasn't even judging myself because today also we had the same call, and again the pace was the same. The content became completely different from what was yesterday. So I was saying, okay, yesterday was meaningless then. So yeah.
I would build on it in the following manner.
Hmm.
One is, I'm not necessarily invoking slowness per se. I'm
Okay.
saying there are 4S model. There is the start, stop, slow, speed. Um, the relationship with all four 12 years back was very different. The relationship with all four now is very different. And let me invoke Bruce Lee here. I think if you look at Bruce Lee, some of his moves were really rapid, extremely rapid. But the rapidity came from a sense of a very deeper integration, which gave smoothness to that action rather than roughness to that action. So it wasn't about the slowness or the speedness of it. It was about the way it was integrated deep to the deep core, and it's rising from there. So then you have that sort of dance or the smoothness of it, rather than getting jittery about
The
the
move.
thinking, feeling, saying, doing inside.
That's
That's
beautiful.
how I see it.
That's beautiful because that kind of tells me that this part is a work in progress, and one can
Yeah.
continue to be what one is trying to be. Uh, Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thanks.
I have, I think we've covered a new ground of sorts. I do not know. There is a certain sense of ease to today's conversation, which happens in others, but there is more gravitas as a feeling. Today, there is more ease as a feeling that I've had with the conversation. Um,
No, I am deeply grateful to you because these interactions help me also unfold things in a different manner. So I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you so much. We
Thanks.
should both be thankful to the values workshop and the reasons why it started.
Yes.
One last thing, I want to give credit to my daughter. She keeps telling me something that you said today. She says whenever we are talking about youngsters or something, and they're uh, they're not perceiving what I'm talking to her. Okay, this is what she says. You always do not count their age and the time they've spent. And would you do the same thing if you were that young at that point? Why do you think that they should understand this? I'm not even denying that you're right. She starts there. Okay, I'm not denying what you're saying is right and should be done that way. But how do you expect the other person to get it when they are so young? And I always, yesterday itself, I told her, I said, no, because there are people younger than me who are wiser at times and all this stuff. So while there is a contradiction to every statement you can make in the world, but you did put a context to it that you see it as a collection of experiences and exposure to certain things that has helped you understand this better. And for a little while, I kind of grasped what she's been trying to say, that I need to be easy on people and their journey. And you also mentioned the 2x2s. So, with a little more respect than before for those. Not that I've judged them, just that I have just seen them. Okay, that is your methodology of getting something. And once I have to be honest, I had got the grasp of, okay, it gives more points of view than one point of view, which is where your narrow part gets at least dissolved a bit as much as possible. So on that lovely note, thank you so much, and I shall see you soon again. Uh,
Thanks.
Thank you for this time. May all of us be de-stressed a bit thanks to this episode and the merits that this episode brings up. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Bunty. Thank you.
Bye.